My name is Eric Stuckey. I'm the city administrator at the city of Franklin, and I get to moderate this morning, and I'm really excited about it. Really excited to be on the stage of the Franklin Theater. It's an awesome place to be, and it's also a fantastic representation of one of the key things we talk about that makes Franklin work, makes Franklin special. The mayor, when he did his introductory comments on Tuesday, talked about our vision statement of being America's favorite hometown, driven by excellence, balancing preservation and progress. The most important word in those 10 words is the word "and," because we believe and know we can do both, and that in fact, one feeds and supports the other. And one of the best examples, one of my favorite examples since I came here almost 16 years ago, has been this place, Franklin Theater. In the heart of the recession, the Heritage Foundation raised all the private money to both save, then restore, but also make this a place that looks forward, to be something it's never been before, a world-class performance venue. So yes, we're showing movies and we're honoring that part of our history, but we're also something we weren't before that will live in generations to come. And I think that's what this morning is about, is how we talk about preservation, how we talk about our core, our downtown, both in a way that preserves it, but also says, what can it and should it be for the future? And so I'm excited to help that dialogue happen this morning in a small way. And so we're gonna kick it off. We're gonna have 3 different presentations and then a panel discussion with the great folks that you're gonna hear from. And kicking it off is our president and CEO of the Heritage Foundation, Barry Beasley. Barry took this role as our CEO and president at the Heritage Foundation in 2017. She has been a leader in advocating for preservation and progress in our community. And she has done important projects, some of which you may have seen yesterday in terms of saving and the work to restore and make new, in some ways, the Franklin Grove, the Moore Morris Heritage Center, Cultural Center, also key work in the Preserve Williamson campaign. So we want to welcome Barry. She's not just working the job, she lives here in the community, raising her daughter, living with her husband right here in Williamson County. And she is a graduate of the University of Alabama. So there'll be some discussion about that on Saturday, I'm sure. And we welcome Barry to the stage to talk about the great work that's going on in Franklin, Tennessee.
I'll be right here. Hi, everyone. It's great to see you. I'm Barry Beasley. So appreciative for this opportunity to share for a few moments about our organization, what we're doing, what we've been doing, and a little bit about what's to come. I will reference what he said. I am a 2-time graduate of the University of Alabama, and we had the Heritage Ball about a week ago. Who knew that Vanderbilt was going to beat Alabama, and our whole entire event was black and gold. I had a black and gold dress on, like I was throwing a Vanderbilt party. But anyway, it was a great night. And the Heritage Ball is just one example of the way that community gathers around historic preservation. And we'll touch on that just a little bit over the next few moments. But I do want to start with a video that we created earlier this year about a campaign that we've started called Preserve Williamson. And it's not new work. We are grounded in our work in historic preservation, but because the dynamics have changed in some ways. We've always been a beautiful, growing, vibrant town, but what I see in my role that has really shifted in the past almost 8 years that I've been in this role, 7.5 years, is that the demand for growth, the growth that we see. The Heritage Foundation is not against growth, but we want to be a part of the conversations and see smart growth happening in our community. And so because of that pressure, and then also our commitment to preserving place in how we've always done it and in new ways, we felt like a real grassroots campaign in Williamson County was very critical at this moment in time. So we created something called Preserve Williamson, which I'll talk about. But when we introduced it earlier this year, we created about a 10-minute video to talk about the concept. I think it really fits with the conversation that's happening this week around this conference. So even though it's 10 minutes and I have 30 minutes total, I'm going to take 10 minutes to show you this video, and then I have a few slides I want to walk through with you. Again, I'm thrilled to be here, and we'll start with this video, and then I'll share some thoughts.
In the heart of Williamson County, Tennessee, lies a rich tapestry of history, woven through the landscapes of Franklin, Fairview, Brentwood, Spring Hill, Leapers Fork, Thompson Station, and Nolensville. Here, amidst the rolling hills and verdant fields, the past whispers its stories, urging us to preserve and honor its legacy as we stride confidently into the future.
Preserving Williamson County means everything. And I think the greatest gift about preserving Williamson County is that it's a gift to future generations.
That's the spirit of preservation. I think that's the thing that we have to say. That's why the work's so important, so that not only my son, but his son and their sons can enjoy this very feeling that we enjoy every day.
As we journey from the historic streets of Franklin, where echoes of the Civil War still linger, for in honoring our past, we do not merely cling to nostalgia, we forge a deeper connection to our roots, grounding ourselves in the stories of those who came before us.
Hall Bargains literally sits in the heart of downtown Franklin. The community itself has been there 157 years of great preservation of history that we've been able to capture and restore through home ownership and generational wealth. Preserving the Hall Bargain neighborhood means preserving Franklin.
It is through this reverence for history that we find the strength and wisdom to navigate the uncertainties of the future.
There's a incredibly special home called Magnolia Hall, but it's on the National Register of Historic Places. It's a very unique property. It sits on 12 acres. It's in the historic district of downtown Franklin. It's a very important historic asset for this community. We sure didn't want to lose Magnolia Hall as a piece of history. So a bunch of us figured out a plan, and I'm gonna say a bunch of us because it was Heritage Foundation, and everybody kind of came together to say, what can we do? And so we have created a plan to build these 10 historically relevant houses on this site. And so we were able to strip the cost out of the house and to allow somebody to be able to come in and buy the house and restore it, which is what's happening.
As we journey through Williamson County, Tennessee, let us preserve the treasures of our heritage while embracing the boundless possibilities that lie ahead.
For many years, we were the fastest growing county in the state of Tennessee. And the one thing you do not want, you appreciate the economic the businesses that come to town, the Nissans and the Mars and all of the smaller business. You really do appreciate them because they offer the jobs that you need for your community. We have some of the gorgeous hilltops and vistas and fence row. All those fence rows were put in 200 years ago. We need to make sure we protect them and they don't wind up just being pushed over.
In honoring the past, we pave the way for a brighter tomorrow where the echoes of history continue to resonate, guiding us on our journey into the future.
Today, more than ever, preservation is all about real estate. And real estate here in Williamson County is valuable real estate in dollars, but it's also valuable in the cultural heritage and the history that's within the ground. And even if a building doesn't stand on a property, those rolling hills and those stacked stone walls and those special corridors that are still used by people today that go back 200 and in the case of indigenous people, thousands of years, those still matter.
When I was young, I often loved old places and old houses. My aunt and uncle, who were teenagers, used to take me to Willow Plunge Swimming Pool, which was over by Carnton Plantation. And I could see it through the trees, and I'd just stare at it. And my uncle, he goes, yeah, a lot of important things happen there. And we got out of our car and went through the field and got up on the porch of the house. I remember the old windows, some of them being cracked, and we peered in, and in the dining, what is the dining room of Carnton? There was hay stored. It just blew me away that somebody was storing hay like a barn. And it's such a shame, that it looks like it does. And I had thought all my life, somebody needs to save that house. Somebody needs to do something about that house. The Heritage Foundation, they knew that it needed to be saved, thank goodness. When my youngest son decided to get married, he wanted to get married at Carnton. And so we had his wedding on the grounds at Carnton, which put another layer to our family that was associated to that house.
These are not just towns, they are living museums, where every cobblestone and every tree tells a tale of perseverance and resilience.
The Lee Buckner Schoolhouse was one of the Julius Rosenwald and Booker T. Washington's collaborative effort back in the early 1900s to educate African American students who weren't really getting an education due to Jim Crow laws. The importance of saving the Lee Buckner Schoolhouse was tremendous, especially for the former students. I was there when they moved the schoolhouse from Spring Hill that early morning, and it was a momentous occasion, one that I'll never forget. Listening to the former students, Miss Mary, Mr. Roy, Miss Alice, and Miss Georgia, speak about how important it was for them to be able to get an education.
It's so rare to get to do historic preservation work, not only on a Rosenwald school, but when I saw that, I knew that I wanted to do historic preservation work in Williamson County.
Here we are, Anna and I are on our way. It's a historic night. We are right behind Lee Buckner as it's moving to its new home in Franklin, Tennessee. This has been years in the making. What a I know it. It's Anna's first night as our Senior Director of Historic Preservation, and what a way to start her new job. I can't wait. Really exciting.
I'm happy. So much. He's so happy. Thank you. Thank you. Why are you fighting? It's hard to believe that that's what happens. We least thought it's been so long. Yeah. Which is the beginning of some really great things happening is on this project.
The Heritage Foundation is an organization that is about preserving spaces and stories that matter. And here we are able to have this incredible film and this special event because of something like the Heritage Foundation.
The film that I've been working on for years, then it became a collaboration, working with my son with it because he's a birder. And so all of these things that were a product of our environment, it started coming in where, yes, we're gathering this footage because we love to gather it, and now let's gather it because it needs to have a voice too, whether it be places that don't exist anymore or things that are worth saving. You know, we want that, and sometimes it takes those visuals and stuff to remind us of that and to inspire us.
I love everybody that I meet that comes to town and says, I've just moved to Franklin. But I think it's all of us working together to be able to say, as we grow, we have to not lose that sense of preserving place, because it's the essence of what brought people here in the first place.
Change is coming, it's coming fast, but being able to preserve was in the past to kind of honor those that have been here before, my grandparents.
Preserve Williamson is not new work. It's a continuation of the work that we've been doing for 57 years. I think there are new tactics. I think there are new ways with technology that we can reach people and we can tell this story in new ways. I hope we achieve all of that through Preserve Williamson.
I told Barry and a couple of other people, I consider this to be the Smithsonian of Williamson County. Get the younger people involved. One of the things I think is important is they are so in tune to technology. And here at the Moore Morris History and Culture Center, you've got technology all around you.
So Vanderbilt collaborated with the Heritage Foundation to donate the history lab here that will allow for residents to share their oral histories, for students coming here on field trips to be a part of something very special.
So this is the type of things that will invite them in. It's not stale, it's not stagnant, it's going to constantly be evolving.
And this is kind of the centerpiece of the History Center. It's a really innovative way to tell these individual stories throughout Williamson County and the region's history. So everything that they say in these portraits is pulled from the actual historical record.
It has to be invigorating for them, it has to draw them in, and I think that with technology, we have an opportunity to really help the younger generation be more involved in their history.
And I'm so proud of this new division of the Heritage Foundation, and I'm so proud to call you all friends.
Growth is inevitable, but I think you don't want to grow to the point where you ruin what you have. And I think there's a way for it to coexist, and we think through Preserve Williamson, we can share and discover those ways.
The best part of working in a community is not just our nonprofit. I think about all of the other nonprofits that work, whether it's land conservation, preserving history, preserving the built environment. All of us have a role in this together. And so I think us coming together to preserve Williamson and to amplify this bigger story is going to be our legacy for future generations. All right. I'll start right there where that ended. It is all about community. If there's one thing I've learned in the years that I've been here, is that this is a very, very special place. It is not one organization, the Heritage Foundation, or any one entity. It is a whole community that believes in preserving this sense of place. It's the most philanthropic community. It seems like every week I'm hearing about there's a dinner, there's an event, there's a something, and it's supporting some essence of preserving place. And that is just a testament to the people that have been here and the people who call this place home. So it is the whole community that comes together to make magical things happen. And that's why I feel like the whole world has an eye on Franklin and Williamson County and how we do this. And so I'll just share a few aspects about specifically how we work at the Heritage Foundation. And right now, we're in a big project with Franklin Grove. We just opened the History and Culture Center, and I'll share a few things about that. But I think sometimes it gets a little confused about, well, maybe the Heritage Foundation is just working on a couple of big projects. The majority of our day-to-day and what my team works on is really that core work that started 57 years ago. We are grounded in the work of preservation, education, and advocacy. So I'm not sure who's doing the slides. Anyway, there you go. And so we have all kinds of interesting preservation projects. We work with developers and others for conversations. We advocate for our historic places and smart growth. And we have incredible educational programs. We just hired our first full-time director of education this year, and we're building out programming not only for children but also for adults. So that is really our core work. I'll tell you one preservation story real quickly that happened this year that made me realize, even though there are sometimes hard days, there are so many mountaintop moments and so many moments that I think what joy it is to be in this community and to get to work in preservation. Earlier this year, Anna, our new Senior Director of Historic Preservation, and I went to a home, and we stood on about 30 acres at this historic home in Williamson County, and I just did a complete 180, and all around this historic home was intense development. And so the family said to us, we just kind of give up. I mean, we can sell this for a lot of money, and we really want to keep it, but the house is not in great shape. We don't even know how to begin to tackle this. So I think it's just over for our family. We've had it for generations, and this is it. And they gave us an opportunity to have conversation about what it would look like to save this historic building and how we could help them get some tax credits, how we could help, how we could build a preservation plan. And now I'm very proud to say that the great-granddaughter will be being raised by her parents in that home. And I think that is just part of the tradition of historic preservation in our community. And that was a real mountaintop moment this year. So our core work, preservation, education, and advocacy. But also, because of the Heritage Foundation's success over almost 60 years, we've been able to acquire some historic spaces and through historic preservation, create some cultural amenities that are very special and that just add to the fabric of Franklin and Williamson County. So we'll talk about that. And we'll go to the next slide. But the big thing is we are looking at 153% growth projected by 2040. And we are a community. If you look at Franklin, established 225 years ago, Heritage Foundation's helped put over 130 properties on the National Register. So it's an interesting dynamic. And here's some specifics before we go into the projects about historic preservation. In our day-to-day, we're proactive we see proactive preservation relies on maintenance, regular use, relationship building, and community engagement. And again, none of this could be accomplished if it was not a community effort. There are partnerships with property owners, preservationists, city and county government, local businesses, and merchants in our historic retail district. I'll touch on a few things, but we move forward successfully with our city government. We're appreciative of the city of Franklin. There's one specific project that we're working on right now, Flowers on Main. There was a survey done, and it was stated that people spend more money if there are flowers around. So we said, okay, how about it, City of Franklin? What if we both put in money and we really create more magnificent flowers on Main Street? The city said yes. Thank you, Mayor Moore, Eric. And if you see the beautiful changing every season of the flowers, that's done with intentionality, and that's part of the public-private partnership. Just one example of the success of that. And then third here, technical knowledge, training, education. We have programs like Building of the Month. We have a historic easement program, and we've created what you just saw, Preserve Williamson. One of the key things that has happened this year that has been tremendously helpful to me is that we did hire Anna Markham. I'm not sure that she's here in the room, but Anna has done historic preservation work in various parts of the country. Her master's degree is in historic preservation from Tulane. She's most recently worked in New York, and she has come with such incredible technical knowledge that as the work gets more intense for us throughout the county, she has really contributed so much. So for locals, if you've not met Anna, I hope that you will, because she's fantastic. Our board had a retreat recently, and we updated our vision and mission statement. So, you know, the vision is the big, audacious goal. What do you want to be? Our vision is to be the reason the world knows and falls in love with Williamson County's culture and history. And it's not us, the Heritage Foundation per se, but it is the result of the work done through the foundation. We want to be part of the dynamic for people to know and love Williamson County. The mission of the Heritage Foundation is to preserve, promote, and advocate for historic places, stories, and culture of our community. Just a few quick facts here. We are 57 years old, as I stated. We do have over 2,500 annual members and donors. I think that's really an important piece of the dynamic of why the Heritage Foundation is successful, is that it's been a combination of not only local people in our community, but it's been just this incredible growth of new people to our community. And here's one of the things that has shocked me the most, particularly coming out of COVID, is that constantly there are people from Chicago, California, New York that find us, that we don't even find them. They find us, and they say, part of the reason that we have uprooted our family and we have moved to Williamson County is because we love this sense of place, this historic preservation work. We love the mission of what you're doing. And that has been dynamic, and it's really helped the Heritage Foundation to grow. We have educated thousands of students. We have 4 business divisions, and then we have 4 major annual events. The Heritage Ball that I referenced. We also produce Main Street Festival, Pumpkin Fest, and Dickens of a Christmas. Last year, we did an economic impact study just on the 3 weekends of those 3 festivals, and we discovered through that economic impact study that over 360,000 people visited Franklin over those 3 weekends, and it had a $10 million economic impact on our community. And you know, you might say, well, why does the Historic Preservation Organization do festivals? 40 years ago, people were not necessarily coming to Franklin. And so the vision, the great idea of the people here at that time was, why don't we create festivals to draw people, heritage tourism, bring people see our historic downtown. 40 years later, this has become part of the fabric of our community, that cultural experience that people love and know. So the festivals are a part of what we do. I don't have my watch with me, but I'm going to go quickly. I want to talk about our divisions. So this is kind of the lockup of our logos, and in a sense, it sometimes feels like it's 5 nonprofits in one, but let me break it down and talk about it. The Heritage Foundation is sort of the parent org, and that is how we do our core work of preservation, education, and advocacy. We also have 4 divisions, and I'm going to talk about each of those divisions very quickly. We do the 3 festivals and we do the Heritage Ball. The beautiful Franklin Theater that you are a part of, that you are here today, we this year were nominated by the Academy of Country Music for Best Theater in America. We didn't win, but I think the Ryman won. But for the first time to be nominated, that is just such an incredible storyline for this theater, and we were thrilled. We have 3 real business lines at the theater. We have movies, performances, and private events. And private events really kept us going during the pandemic, as well as donor dollars. And I know a lot of theaters did not emerge, historic theaters did not emerge well after the pandemic. This theater thrived, and we are really doing well. Eric Diltz does an incredible job with our team. We have an incredible advisory board, and sky's the limit for this theater. We're so proud of it. Not only does it serve our community well, but I do see that it is part of the economic engine of downtown. I was told, I wasn't here at this time, but I was told that because of the theater opening, bars, restaurants stayed open later. It really helped our downtown to thrive. And so we're so proud that the Franklin Theater is part of the Heritage Foundation, and we can serve the community through this historic building. In addition to the theater, we have the Downtown Franklin Association. It is through the Downtown Franklin Association that we administer the Main Street America program. We have a building on Main Street. Heidi Hood is our managing director. And I'm very proud to say there are 200 local building and business owners who are a part of our DFA. They meet in this room every month. They hear oftentimes from the mayor, someone from the city, they hear from the police department, and it's a time for relationship building, the idea that we're all in it together, and Heidi does some dynamic training. So very proud of our Downtown Franklin Association. Again, it is also how we administer some of our public and private programming. Next, we have the Moore Morris History and Culture Center. It is located in a 1905 National Register building here in downtown. If you've not visited Moore Morris History and Culture Center, we hope you will. It is a totally immersive experience and tells the stories from indigenous people to modern day. We're very proud of our History and Culture Center. It's gotten a lot of press this year, a lot of people in. We're definitely promoting it through heritage tourism, another experience for visitors, locals, and guests to our community. This year, as I said, we also hired a director of education. We are well on our way to next steps with Franklin Grove, and so we're actually thinking about appropriate synergy for the center and what is really an educational campus. So more to come on that, but we're having some great dialogue on how all that will fit together really nicely. And lastly, Franklin Grove Estate and Gardens. Real quickly, I will just tell you that this was a property, 5.2 acres, 2 historic mansions, a couple blocks off the square, that was the former O'Moore College of Design. When Belmont University acquired O'Moore, the school, it left the campus vacated, and it left a concern in Franklin. What would happen? Would houses be built there? What will happen to this very critical piece of property? It just so happens at that time, the Heritage Foundation was in a position to step forward. Serendipitously, sometimes things work out. I moved here 19 years ago to work for Belmont. Belmont at that time owned the property, so I went right back to the president. I cast a vision of why our community needed to have this property. It needed not be sold to anyone other than the Heritage Foundation, who would create a cultural amenity and make sure it's preserved in perpetuity. We were able to get the green light, acquire the property, and then I wish I had brought the timeline to show over these years the vast work that has been done, from getting city approvals, oral histories. We've done archaeological survey. We have done historic structure reports. It is endless, the amount of work and the steps that it's taking, working with our architects, doing charrettes in our community, understanding what the needs are. I'm very proud to say that here in fourth quarter, we will start really the first phase of construction. And so I don't think that's been stated publicly anywhere yet. So you're the first to hear this, but you will see some dirt moving and some of the exterior on the buildings begin their restoration this year. Before I close, the one thing I want to say about Franklin Grove, and I think this ties it all together, historic preservation leads to community, it leads to economic vitality. It can coexist really well with growth. But the last thing that I will say that I think is really important is I want to tell the story about Lee Buckner. Lee Buckner is the historic schoolhouse, the Rosenwald School, that was somewhere else. It couldn't stay there because the land was going to be developed. We acquired that schoolhouse. We had Franklin Grove. We knew we were creating a center for really educational offerings for our community through this space. And so we started the steps to move Lee Buckner to this campus. Well, at the very beginning of that process, some of my team came to me and said, you know what, we have found former students who are in their 70s and 80s, a teacher in her 90s, who went to Lee Buckner. And I said, we got to have a lunch at the office immediately, and we've got to, meet them, and we've got to hear their stories. And so we got together that day, and we heard stories. We heard stories like, I had one pair of nice shoes, and I would put rocks out between my front door and the road because I wanted my shoes to look nice when I got to school. And we heard about the importance of daily devotions. We heard about the importance of music. We heard, sometimes we don't know, we'd walk back home, but our teacher would already know, our parents would already know if we acted up at school that day. And we heard all kinds of incredible stories. And one question I happened to ask is I said, does anybody remember any of the songs that you would ever sing? And this one lady who had been very quiet in the room said, I sing it every day at my nursing home. And she started a cappella with Jesus Loves Me, and all of us sang together in that room. And at the end of that, there was not a dry eye. And from that day forward, I never talked about the work that we do at the Heritage Foundation the same. It's not just about the built environment. It's about saving the places and the stories that matter. And so, to me, the most joyful part about working at the Heritage Foundation with our community and doing this is we're saving stories for future generations. And that makes all the difference, and that's what makes the community special. So thank you so much for this opportunity to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you so much, Barry. And as you can tell, the Heritage Foundation has been such an important partner as an advocate, but as a partner in preserving, but also looking towards the future and how that impacts it. Okay, now we're on to another project that impacts downtown that's a coming attraction, if you will. I want to introduce Devin McClendon. Devin is the president and partner of NIA Nashville. Now, Nashville may be in the name of his company, but he's a Wilco guy. He's a Williamson County born and bred, and we're glad to have him come and talk. He has worked there as president and partner, had an extensive commercial real estate career, over $3 billion with a B transactions in his career and growing. And we're thrilled that the work he's going to talk to you about talks about how we look at revitalizing and bringing kind of some of the fabric of downtown down Columbia Avenue. And Devin's going to talk about that. Again, he is not just a great businessman, he is also an active community partner. He's a Brentwood guy too, so we let him come across the border, and that's good. But he also deeply involved in his community there, a proud alum of Middle Tennessee State, former Board of Trust member, and active in their National Alumni Association, lives in Brentwood with his family. And welcome Devin to the stage.
Very good. Thank you, Eric. I will note that I am here in the city of Franklin on special visa. I value that the city will let me come south into the city. I do joke with folks when I introduce myself, particularly as it relates to business from folks outside of Middle Tennessee. I refer to myself as a Williamson County native. I don't say, oh, I've lived in Brentwood my entire life, chosen to create my permanent residence in this city. I refer to it as Williamson County. And part of that may be because the sense of community that was given to me by my family and by the greater Williamson County area. So I share that because on the tail of what Barry just shared with us, we are a greater community of a whole. And I think that's always important to note. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a little bit about a real estate development project that I am leading, that I had the privilege of kind of being one of the idea generators for. And you might think, well, why is that important when we're talking about preservation, we're talking about other things? It's because of our partners and the ability we've had to approach new construction, new development with an eye towards preserving story, preserving community, and creating legacy. So we focused on downtown, and by we, I mean our entire team, because of all the work and effort that others before us had put into it. I'll tell you a little bit about our team in a moment, but really, this project that we will build here beginning very soon really goes back to that thing that your mother tells you when you're young that you don't plan on remembering, but echoes forever. For me, I think it was my mother trying to teach me patience. I was not a very patient child, and she used to say, good things come to those who wait. This project is 100% a good thing that will only arrive because those of us involved were willing to wait, to be patient. We started about 4 years ago, a little over that, having a larger discussion. Our ownership group, a group called the Arlington Family Office, had purchased a historic office home converted for office use here in downtown Franklin. As they expanded out of their native home of Birmingham, they loved Franklin. As they were growing, their clients were Nashville, Franklin, Brentwood, Murfreesboro. They chose Franklin because for them, it stood for heritage. They loved the story. So they came to me and said, we want to play a bigger role. We love this. We want to be a part of it. It represents what we believe as a family office. So we began to look and talk and have conversations in the community, and we found a building. Most of us call it the Handy Hardware Building. But we saw it, it came available, and we said, that will be our cornerstone. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the story of it, and then tell you a little bit about how what we're doing to try to preserve or connect preservation with progress. So this is our team. Not that it matters a great deal. The name at the very top, Arlington Family Offices, is the reason that I'm able to stand before you. While I'm the CEO of NAI Nashville and we're the executional partner, we're the developer of this project that we warmly now refer to as the Margin District. It's Arlington's focus on legacy and purpose that has allowed me to be here, to do what we've done over 4 years, and really to bring something that we hope will enhance and set a new standard for how you blend preservation and progress. In here, we very intentionally tried to link as many Williamson County located or homed or involved firms. You'll see two of the most critical partners for us have been our architects. One you're going to hear from in a minute, and it's Studio 8, who has played a traditional or a expansive role in a lot of what is going on and has gone on in downtown Franklin. That was my very first call. Matt, what can I do here? And he said, well, you could keep the building. That's what you can do. I said, well, that's a no-brainer. We assembled this team very intentionally. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the story. And I'm going to start with Handy Hardware, but the project really becomes much more. What most of us know and call Handy Hardware is only because that's the business that's been in it for the last 50 years. Building and the site upon which it sits has a wonderfully rich history. It was the building we see that we'll preserve was constructed in the 1930s by a gentleman of the name S.E. Farnsworth. Mr. Farnsworth is really noteworthy now and relevant in our community because a lot of the product that he built, homes and buildings in and around Franklin, still stand today. If you created something that has lasted that long and generally been in very good condition, that's noteworthy. More so, the story before Mr. Farnsworth is really what we're going to highlight. So he bought the property in 1929. He bought it from Peggy Jane Redmond. Miss Redmond is a key component of this spot. And that is because Miss Redmond was the matriarch of a family. She was a freed slave. She had inherited this as part of land from her former owner. She worked with her sons to expand their real estate over the course of her late life. They had a building on this site referred to kind of friendly as the Redmond Building. Mr. Farnsworth raised it because he didn't feel like it could survive. But that story is one of those that we felt was worth preserving because it's authentic Franklin. It tells some of the things we need to know. It is that we embraced and said, let's do something with this. So as I mentioned, he purchased it in 1929. You see some really good pictures throughout the years. The one at the top in the middle is the week after he opened the building. Ultimately, it would become a hardware store as it settled in. It was, for a short time, our co-op. It's played several roles throughout its life. But as we began to look at it, we envisioned more than just a new office for our client. We knew we had to preserve it and make progress at the same time. So we wanted a connection, if you will, between this history and the future. From there, we spent the next 3 years acquiring what would become 7 different parcels. Really, this is a story of taking small elements and weaving them together with purpose. None of these parcels outside of the main Handy Hardware could become much on their own. But collectively, it gives us the opportunity to really blend those things that we feel are valuable. We played around with different ideas. We said, look, we need to create history and opportunity. We need to tell a story. So that's what we went about. As we moved forward, we felt that whatever we delivered needed to feel like it fit within downtown Franklin. There's a lot of places you can go in Williamson County and you can see new construction. We did not want to create flashy. We didn't want to look too far outside of why people love our downtown. People visit not just for the buildings, not just for the stories. They visit Franklin, they love Franklin. The residents here are passionate about Franklin because it's authentic. And that was our goal. So let's talk about inspiration. We spent an entire year with Studio 8 and several others from the community looking at what made downtown special. We took images, we did drawings, we cut things out of magazines, you name it. We said, we need to make sure we're doing justice to the beauty of the area we're in. Some of these are actually in downtown Franklin. Many are things that we thought would bring value. But mostly what we said was, what we build must be of the same quality and craftsmanship that everyone before us has engaged with. And so that was the real unifying factor. So let's take a look at the project. We started with an architectural plan. These are very simplistic drawings, but what you'll notice here is a variation of style. I'll show you our site here in a second, but what you'll notice with this in tiny little form, and I apologize you can't see more in this image, you will in just a second, but you'll see we said one of the great things about downtown Franklin is that no two buildings are perfectly alike. If we're going to be right here on the margin of downtown, we need to be a part of that architectural family. So we very intentionally went in and said, we're gonna have multiple buildings. They should not be homogeneous. They should not look modern. They should look and fit in with the community. So this is how we took a kind of collage of properties and approached. Now, if you're not familiar with downtown Franklin, our anchor is Columbia Avenue. Columbia Avenue runs north to south into downtown Franklin. It's an avenue that has its own designation, its own overlay. Those of the city have thought over the years it needed a presence. It needed to have elements that were preserved about it. Columbia Avenue has its own unique stories in downtown, many of which we are going to tell as we bring this to life. This is an example of what it would feel like on your ground level, which is retail. We're building a true mixed-use building. One of the things we felt was important, and it was actually an idea of somebody from the community in a community meeting, was they said, don't come build this and bring in only big national retailers. Y'all need to remember what's special about downtown Franklin is that a lot of downtown Franklin is our neighbors. The shops are local. The people live here. Make sure you do that. And we took note. The team at Studio 8 in particular said, you need to program small shop space so that it's affordable and accessible, and you don't just bring in a bunch of fancy retail. So that's what we did. We'll have a second story that is office that actually then begins to connect those buildings to allow interconnection. The office is geared, as you can see, to smaller office formats. We're not looking for one headquarters location. We're looking for professional firms that are a part of the community to create their forever home, their location in downtown Franklin. The key for us, and really what makes the project possible, is the next slide, which is the third floor will be permanent residences, not apartments, not a hotel. We felt the Harpeth and everything in downtown Franklin was well served. We said we want to add residents. We want to bring community here. It needs to be a part of our project. So we have 25 condominiums that we will sell as part of the project. They'll range from 1,800 feet for someone that's more interested in a lock and leave scenario, that maybe Franklin is a second home for them, all the way larger to 4,000 feet. That's going to be more for your permanent downtown Franklin residents. They'll all be very well appointed. They'll all have their own private individual outdoor spaces. We felt that was very important to incorporate. And we also felt if we were going to build something that was 3 stories, it needed to fit within the community. So we stepped the third story back. We pushed it in cooperation with staff, with BOMA, with the Planning Commission, to make the building feel like it would fit. So let's take a look. So this is as you approach or you head south on Columbia Avenue from 5 Points. Really what we've done is try to reflect downtown Franklin. For us, that legacy element was really important. That's Handy Hardware. That's our building almost identically to how it sits today. As we got into it, we realized that there are elements of it that are not stable, but preserving it as an asset and really creating the cornerstone of our project was mission number 1. There was no project if we could not save Handy Hardware. So what we did is we said, let's incorporate it. We hope to, this year, announce a single tenant for the Handy Hardware building. We're in really good negotiations with a really good group that should really contribute to the community with it. But around it, you see the rest of the development, the new reflects the old. That's been very important to us. What we've done also, and you see it here and in the last image, is we've taken Margin Street and we've closed it at Cummins, which is the backside of the development, and shifted that throughput to 9th Avenue. 9th Avenue now runs into one of our parcels. So we'll extend 9th to Cummins. It'll provide a shift, which was something of not only the idea of staff from an engineering standpoint, but the neighborhood nearby. They wanted reasons for people to not cut through their neighborhood. So a shift of that they felt was a good idea. For us, it gave a sense of place. because it allowed us to create a plaza in the middle of the development. And that's what you see here from a perspective. This is a view from Cummins Street. One of the things we wanted to do was contribute to that immediate community. And Cummins Street in Franklin is a very typical of any revitalizing area. There's usually a street that's kind of forgotten. It's a street that in this case acts more like an alley than a road. So part of what we wanted to do was completely transform it into something that is walkable, that feels like the rest of downtown Franklin. This is back on Columbia Avenue, and what you see here is that varying sense of architecture in place. Overall, as we begin to build, a benchmark of this is that when you build in the suburbs, and no matter how we like to talk about downtown Franklin, we are not downtown Nashville. I think we all value that, quite frankly. But you still have to have parking. So our solution was not to build a monolithic parking structure on one side and building on the other, but incorporate it into the project by going down. We'll actually construct 3 stories of underground parking that will both serve the public and our residents. So it will serve everyone. It, quite frankly, is the most difficult part of the process, but we felt it was very important because one of the things everyone loves about downtown Franklin is even when it's packed full, you still need to be able to walk and be a part of community. So that's where we are. I look forward to sharing more as we get a little further along. Our residents, there's some inspiration pictures, 2 renderings from our residential plans. We'll actually begin reserving those units here on the 1st of November. So change is afoot. We'll begin construction soon, God willing, and hopefully have something that will be a net contributor and really take what the city calls out in blending preservation with progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Devin, and we look forward to that moving forward, and thank you for your attention to detail and to making this happen. All right, now we get to talk about something the city is involved in. We are doing a whole new city hall, folks. It's gonna happen. Yes. So by this time next year, the building that we're operating out of as City Hall will no longer be there. It has been a journey. It has been a lot of thought and effort in looking at how we base our operations, how we connect to our community, both now and for generations to come. And so it is this same idea of how we preserve and maintain a civic presence, but also for what will support and feed an important operation for generations to come as well. So I have 2 great women that we get to work with on this project. From our team, Kelly Dannenfelser, who's our Assistant Director of Planning and Sustainability. You heard from her a little earlier in the conference, but Kelly's been with us for 20 years and oversees as Assistant Director our long-range and preservation planning efforts. She lives right here in downtown Franklin with her husband and 2 children and is a great team member. And Anna Ruth is kind of an unofficial city team member. She works as a partner at Studio 8. You heard about some of their work. She has been a lead in working with us on the City Hall project, has a deep background as both an architect and interior design with her degree from Auburn. We'll keep you and Barry separate when we get the whole panel up here together. But yeah, there you go. Auburn's looking forward to basketball season right now is what I hear. That's just the way it is. Yeah. Oh, I don't know about that. So anyway, we are so glad to have them join us. Anna Ruth, again, has been great working with us, a wide variety of experiences from smaller projects to large civic projects with an attention to both preservation but also the functionality of what you have to do in a complex organization like the City of Franklin. So I'm gonna let Anna Ruth and Kelly take it away.
Thank you, Eric. Can you all hear me okay? Yes? All right. Could we cue the presentation? All right. Well, before we talk about future plans, we'd like to take you back to the history of City Hall, all the way back to the beginning. Our first dedicated City Hall was built in 1868, and it likely burned down in 1883. There aren't any photographs of this particular building, but it was on the square facing where our current City Hall is today. Our City Hall has always been on the square, except for one time when it had to move off. And I'd like to thank Brian Laster, one of our historic zoning commissioners, for this history. He's here in the audience somewhere, so thank you for this research. Franklin built its second City Hall in 1888 in the same location to the right of that tower that you see in the photograph. Now there's a tower that you see in that photograph. So City Hall was on the first floor and rented out the upper floor for a 300-seat opera house. And that tower was the staircase as to how you got up there. So the city's long been interested in public-private partnerships. This City Hall burned down only 3 years later. And after that, the city sold off half the land on the square and built a much smaller City Hall. And that one operated until 1959. This one is the one that still stands today, that operated until 1959. It's now where Onyx and Alabaster is, and you can still see the old City Hall offices sign in the brick. We operated here until we ran out of space, and then there wasn't any space on the square to move to at that time. So we moved off down West Main Street to an old funeral home. And it was entirely renovated with all the latest, like air conditioning and green and yellow decor. And the board meetings were held in the former visitation room. But eventually we ran out of space there too, and we were in multiple buildings around town. And about that time, the new retail mall that had been built on the square was failing and went up for sale. So the city had the opportunity to purchase it, but it was $1 million. And it was extremely controversial because that was a lot of money in 1980. It was so controversial that the Board of Mayor and Aldermen took it out to vote to the public in a bond referendum. And the citizens voted yes to move City Hall back to the square because they knew how important it was for a civic building to be in a very prominent location in our downtown. It's where all the activity happens. It's a special place, and that's where City Hall belongs. So we bought the building. You can see that it's a missing tooth in the fabric of the historic buildings on the square. It's a one-story, nondescript brick mall that has a department store layout, and it's really not very functional, but we've made the best we can with it over the last 40 years. There's barely any windows, and it leaks like a sieve. We try to have fun with it. There's a photo that's not showing up that has what we call bladders, which are these yellow bladders in the ceiling of City Hall connected to green garden hoses that go right down into blue trash cans. And they're on wheels because that makes it easier to roll the water out after the storms. It's a failing building, and we've done the best we can with it, but it's really time for a new building for City Hall. Citizen advocates have long supported civic buildings in our center of our downtown, so much so that grassroots efforts brought statements to us about keeping civic buildings in the heart of downtown where it really matters most. So they're in our long-range plans today that we keep these important buildings downtown. We held an extensive engagement period when we talked about the master plan and visioning process for the new City Hall, because it's the public's building. It's where decisions are made that affect the future of Franklin. It's where development applications come through. It's where people gather to meet. And it's an important civic institution that flanks the county courthouse and all of the county civic operations that take place in downtown. So we had quite an extensive input session, many stakeholder meetings, many meetings. This happened in the 2020s, so it was during COVID. So we had to get creative, and we did a lot of Zoom meetings and conversations about what should the City Hall be, because it's more than just a building. It's really the whole block. So we're talking about streetscape and a 1-acre park, and taking the uses and going vertical and incorporating commercial space. And you'll hear more about that from Anna Ruth, but there's more than just a building here. It really is revitalization of our block at the very center facing our most historic public square. So we set out to identify the vision and goals for the building. And the first one is meeting the programmatic needs for City Hall. We need an efficient building, one that operates well for us with departmental adjacencies that work the way that our teams work together. We also want to balance security with a welcoming City Hall. Security was one of those issues that came up in every single department meeting that we had when we started to talk about City Hall and how important that was, and that matters for our employees. But at the same time, we want to be a welcoming, inviting space where citizens feel comfortable going to and participating in the public process as decisions are made about what happens to the future in Franklin. We want it to be flexible for growth into the future. And parking came up, that we wanted to provide parking both for citizens and for staff into the future. And so you'll hear a little bit more about that as well. We also want to just support and promote community functions. You'll hear more about that too. Restrooms are one of those items that we haven't had very well in downtown Franklin, and so the new City Hall will be able to provide that for us as well to support the community events and just people walking around downtown. All of this comes at an extensive cost. So much so that we took a step back. Our Board of Mayor and Aldermen asked us to look at alternative sites. So we spent about 6 months doing an alternative site analysis of various locations throughout the city that could possibly house City Hall. But really, housing it in the heart of our city is paramount. And when we started looking at the costs, it really didn't save us much by the time we spent purchasing other land, then doing the design work. We're about 5 years in now in our planning for the City Hall. So it made sense to keep it where it was, and it wasn't a cost savings to go somewhere else. So we kept going on planning City Hall. And now Anna Ruth's going to tell you all about what has come out of that process.
So civic buildings set the tone for the community. They should create a memorable public realm and be an open and inviting place for citizen engagement and local government to operate and serve its citizens. The City Hall site, as Kelly mentioned, is located in the heart of Franklin's community. Context and compatibility are vitally important to creating a new City Hall that speaks to preserving Franklin's history while providing a place for Franklin to evolve and progress over the next 50 to 100 years. Our team studied the context extensively, not only the architecture, but the history and the stories of this place. Contextually, the site is flanked by taller buildings on the square that you can see on this slide. But as you travel down 3rd Avenue, the context changes greatly. The architectural character transitions to a residential scale of 1 to 2 story structures with front yard setbacks. You can see what an anomaly, like Kelly mentioned, the existing one-story City Hall is in the historic fabric of downtown. To be successful, a new City Hall needs to repair this break in the fabric of downtown Franklin with a civic building that is not only deeply rooted in the physical context of the site, but a building that will serve a central role in Franklin's community activity for the next generation. Okay. Since a City Hall will be the anchor to community functions for generations to come, the community's voice in the design of a civic building is paramount to its success. As planners and designers, we know how a building's presence and its connection to its physical context can result in a presence deeply rooted in the fabric of downtown. But the intangible is the building's response to the citizens' needs to make a civic building a central hub in the community. As Kelly mentioned, the community voiced a desire for amenities from something as simple as access to public restrooms for convenience during, events downtown in Franklin. Additional parking, community and meeting rooms of various sizes, outdoor gathering spaces, and this amazing 1-acre park at the end of the site. A goal that we identified early on was the need to increase pedestrian traffic and activity down 3rd Avenue. The plan includes commercial shell space that you can see here in the ground floor of City Hall adjacent to the park, providing 2 to 3 potential restaurant or retail tenants. Anchoring the southern gateway to downtown, the commercial use and park will really complement each other while serving as an amenity to the downtown. So here we are with the entry elevation. Consensus from the community and city leadership was to maintain the primary entrance to City Hall on the historic square, welcoming citizens and visitors alike and reinforcing the civic presence of City Hall. You can see a 2-story celebratory arch offers a view of the old historic City Hall across the square that Kelly shared with you, providing a connection to Franklin's past. To truly complete the geometry of the square, we realigned the front wall of the new City Hall with the facade of the historic county courthouse. As part of the plan, the width of the pedestrian connector was increased to the existing 2nd Avenue parking garage to improve safety and the pedestrian experience on this frequently used corridor. The corner plaza at the entrance of City Hall supports the many outdoor gatherings and festivals that happen throughout the year. Contextually, the massing of the new City Hall is 3 stories up closer to the square to relate to the neighboring historic county courthouse and the 231 Public Square building. The massing steps down to 2 stories, as you can see in the distance, along 3rd Avenue in response to the transition to the residential character. The pedestrian experience is going to be enhanced along 3rd Avenue with street trees, landscaping, and wider sidewalks. By going multi-story, the building footprint became more compact, allowing room for the wonderful 1-acre park at the end of the site. Vertical breaks in the facade and variation in parapet were incorporated into the design to reflect the existing fabric of downtown Franklin. And then here you see an arcade in this view, which is an entry to a courtyard element just past the historic courthouse, and it's at the transition from the 3-story to 2-story massing, responding to the rhythm of the context further. And then here you see the 1-acre park and commercial space anchor the gateway corner of the site and provide an active destination for pedestrians along 3rd Avenue. City Hall is a place for residents to celebrate their community, attend meetings, and feel a sense of ownership. By remaining at this prominent site in downtown Franklin, the city is honoring its past while demonstrating its commitment to serving the citizens of Franklin for the next century. Thanks for letting us share this project.
All right, we've got just a little bit of time. I'm going to invite folks who presented back to come back up, and Anna Ruth and Kelly joined me here. If you have questions, please let us know. I do have a couple questions to get us started maybe as the group joins in. Have a seat. Thank you all. Great job. And you can see exciting things continue to happen in downtown Franklin, and we're proud to share it with you all today. Come on in, Barry. All right, so why downtown? Why is downtown so important? Not just in Franklin, but in communities across the country. What does it mean? Why is it something that you choose to invest in and also both honor a history, but also build a future in? So who wants to start?
Start.
Go ahead, take a break.
Well, obviously downtowns mean so much to a community. It's a place to gather. It's a place that drives economic vitality. We see firsthand from, this Franklin Theater, the vitality that it brings. I see every day in the work we do how phenomenal our local merchants are. So to see small businesses thrive, we work to keep that balance of mom and pop shops and bigger boxes that want to come in, and how do we keep the essence of what this community is. So even beyond all of that, I'll say from a personal perspective, when I moved here, I'm from another state. My husband and I moved to Williamson County for its beauty. We loved the downtown, we loved the history, we loved all those pieces. And I remember early in our marriage, we'd say, well, let's go to Pumpkin Fest. And we would go to Pumpkin Fest and we would love everything about the beauty of Pumpkin Fest and the cute downtown. We had our first date here. It was just everything about this amazing downtown. But it was when I started working for the Heritage Foundation that I got to know this community. And now when I go downtown, it's waving in a window to someone. It's running into somebody that you know. And that is what makes a downtown and the spirit of the community so special. So for me, that's my personal take on it.
Great. Okay, Devin, there's probably easier places to develop and build and make some money in Franklin and other places, but downtown has something special. That's why you've taken on a kind of a labor of love, but also something that can be a real force in the future. Talk about that.
That's right. I think the one thing I would encourage folks to think about is downtown Franklin is immensely popular with those not from Franklin. I have conversations with people in Nashville or in other suburbs or in Murfreesboro about, we're going to go to downtown Franklin. And if you stop and you ask why, they say, because it's so nice and it's so quaint. But what they're saying is, it's authentic. We live in a world that for the last 50 years, brands have built. And what we see in our culture is a reflection to want to go back to authenticity. When you look at those things that really bring passion from people, it's things that are authentic. Downtown Franklin is authentic. It says we have a story. Our story is not just Civil War related. It is a rich history of growth and opportunity in the South. We are a story of the modern day, of a community that knows and has learned how to balance the demand of growth with the opportunity to still tell a story. I love to tell people, one of the reasons we chose the building we did, Handy Hardware, as our cornerstone is because we felt it matched our desire to tell a story. Preservation is saving buildings, but it is also about telling a story, and you've got to have that. When you can tell a good story, people realize that you are an authentic community, and that's what drives people here.
So from a city perspective, my city people down here, why is that important in our story? Why civic space where it is? And it's not just a building, it's a block. Talk about why that matters for us now and in the future.
Yeah, well, we heard a lot about new urbanist principles over the last few days and new towns that are being created to bring those traditional development principles and sense of place to new places. And Franklin really is the authentic place. That's what they're really trying to emulate, and we have that downtown with our 16-block core and the surrounding historic areas. It really is a very special place. So when we started looking at the new City Hall, we wanted it to be in that very special place. Mayor Joe Riley from Charleston says that you put your public places on your most valuable land. You put them in the most important areas because they're places for the public, for the citizens, for the people, for everybody to enjoy, not just for a few. And so that's part of what goes into why City Hall should be downtown. But there are other reasons too. City Hall employs over 200 people, and that's an economic driver and supports those local businesses that Barry mentioned that are in downtown. They go for lunch. They bring back lunch. I see it all the time. People and citizens and applicants come down to public meetings, and then they might go out for dinner afterwards to talk about what they heard and saw happen at City Hall. So it really is a very active gathering space that we want to facilitate and promote going forward.
All right, so we've talked about this balancing progress and preservation. What's the progress element you're most excited about on the projects you've talked about? What's the thing that the next generation will say, boy, that was really smart that they did fill in the blank for me? What's the thing that is you're most excited about from a
Well, I can go. Just completing the square. I mean, as we've talked about, the quadrant of this quadrant of the square is just an anomaly. It's that one-story mall building that's always been. I actually grew up here, and my parents said they went to Sears there and shopped there, but it just does not fit the fabric and the story of Franklin. And I'm really excited that we get to repair the square with the City Hall and put it in the center of the fabric of downtown Franklin where it belongs.
And I'm really excited about a lot of aspects of the City Hall. I keep thinking about just windows for the employees and daylight and knowing if it's sunny or cloudy, or we know when it's raining, but that's not the way you want to know that it's raining. And having outdoor space, there really is an outdoor space for us there, and having a 1-acre park, like taking all that square footage and going up rather than out, opens up almost an acre of incredibly designed park space that will be there forever and decades of enjoyment outside in the heart of downtown. And that's not very common, to be able to capture or recapture space like that for everyone to use.
Well, I look at it as someone who runs an organization. We want to attract talent. We want bright people that want to engage and be part of this community. We want to put them in space that is aligned with that will inspire them, that will put them together. And I just, that's the thing I get excited about. So I know I'm supposed to be moderating, but I had to get that. Anything else you all want to add?
I would add the inclusion of a park, to me as an outsider, is one of the most important decisions that was made. It benefits not only the employees, but that is a community addition that is not typically done. In a world where municipal buildings are built for the least amount of money, in the shortest amount of time, the patience and the willingness to say this needs to be community involved, I think that's critical.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Barry, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I would say that the core work of the Heritage Foundation and historic preservation it has never been more important than it is today as we see dynamic growth. I think you and I are a great example. We've spent hours in the office talking about his project, and the Heritage Foundation having a voice in with you and being a partner with you has been an exceptional experience for us. So I'm excited about more opportunities like that. And then as far as the specific projects we're working on, I'm excited to see the inclusivity that bringing Lee Buckner to downtown Franklin brings to our community. I'm very excited to bring a world-class museum of art, gardens, very much like the park. We'll have beautiful botanical gardens at Franklin Grove, and then having an immersive history and culture center. It's a new way to tell our history and to reach young people through technology. But the last thing I'll say is all of those specific projects, just like the Franklin Theater, is made possible, these cultural amenities, through historic preservation efforts. And that is how it is still so perfectly tied to our mission to bring all of this to life.
Thank you so much. I don't know if we have any questions out in the audience. We're going to about wrap it up. I'm getting the hook from Mindy over in the corner. Thanks for giving us this time. Thanks for the work that you all are doing and investing in and thinking both about preserving the core of who we are in Franklin, but also how we turn that into our future. So thank you so much.
Thank you.